It was one of those long, endless nights, the kind that makes the walls feel closer with every hour. The rain had started before sunset, a steady curtain of water tapping against the house, calm at first, but heavier by the minute. I was home, alone. Not for the first time, but something about that night felt different. Office like the storm was waiting for something. My parents were out of town, a wedding on my mom's side. They'd be gone the whole weekend. I had the option to go, but used homework as an excuse. The truth? I wanted the house to myself. No noise, no conversations, just silence and the freedom to move at my own pace. I liked solitude. Still do, mostly. There's a certain peace that comes from being completely alone, a kind of control. And I thought I was in control that night too. I thought I was safe. The routine was always the same. Close the curtains before it gets dark. Check the stove. Lock the doors. One, then the other. Front door, back door. Side windows latched. Simple habits. Nothing special. But that night, something broke the rhythm. I remember standing by the front door, hand on the lock. I was just about to twist the deadbolt when my phone buzzed. A message from a friend. Just small talk, nothing urgent, but it distracted me. I glanced away from the door, responded, and turned back toward the couch without ever turning the lock. That tiny moment, it didn't feel important at the time. A simple missed action, but it would be the reason everything changed. I went back to my spot on the couch, pulled a blanket around me, and pressed play on some random movie. I wasn't really watching it. The storm outside had deepened, and the house creaked in a way I hadn't noticed before. Still, I stayed there, half watching, half scrolling on my phone, trying to enjoy the evening. It was about 40 minutes in when I noticed it. At first, I thought it was just the rain. A soft tapping sound, uneven and distant. But the more I ignored it, the closer it seemed to move. It wasn't rain. It was something else. Dripping. Slow. Steady. Unnatural. I paused the movie, sat up, and listened. A drip. Then a pause. Then another. It wasn't coming from outside. It was inside the house. Somewhere. I walked into the hallway, expecting to find a leak. Maybe something in the bathroom, or the kitchen sink left running. But everything was dry. Everything was normal. Yet the sound continued. That's when the unease really settled in, because it wasn't just the dripping. It was the way the air felt suddenly heavier, as if the atmosphere inside the house had shifted, just slightly, but enough to make the hair on my arms rise. And then I remembered the door. That quick moment earlier, me standing at the front door, hand on the lock, and then not locking it. I couldn't remember the feel of the bolt turning. I couldn't remember hearing the click. I couldn't remember doing it at all. I told myself I was being dramatic, that I probably locked it and just didn't notice, but part of me didn't believe that. I walked slowly back toward the entryway, trying to stay calm. The rain outside was pounding now, like it wanted to drown the house. I approached the door, and there it was, exactly how I'd left it, unlocked. The handle still in the upright position, the deadbolt untouched. Open. My chest tightened. I stood there staring at the lock, waiting for my memory to fix itself, waiting for the logical explanation. But none came. All I had was that message I'd sent to my friend earlier. I locked everything. And it was a lie. I hadn't. For at least 40 minutes, the front door had been wide open to the storm, and to anything or anyone else. I locked it then. Carefully. Slowly. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had already crossed the threshold. I checked the windows again. The back door. Everything was shut. Everything was where it was supposed to be. But the dripping had stopped. That quiet, rhythmic sound that had lured me off the couch in the first place. It was gone now. Vanished. Just like that. And somehow, that felt worse than hearing it. I stood in the middle of the hallway, unsure of what to do next. I thought about calling someone, about asking a friend to come over, but I didn't want to sound crazy. I didn't want to admit that I was scared. Not yet. So I walked back to the living room. I picked up my blanket. I sat down and tried to watch the rest of the movie, but I didn't hear a single word of it. Because the whole time, I kept thinking about that door. The one I said I locked, the one I didn't, and the horrible, impossible question I couldn't get out of my head. If someone came in, would I even know? I couldn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. Something about realizing the front door had been unlocked for so long. It had unsettled me in a way I couldn't shake off. And even after locking it, I still felt exposed, vulnerable, like whatever chance I had to feel safe had passed, and the house knew it. I sat on the couch for what must have been an hour, just staring at the turned-off screen, thinking. That's when I heard it again. That same slow, dripping sound. But this time, it was different. Heavier. Closer. Before, it had sounded like it was in the walls. Distant, quiet, easy to dismiss. Now it was unmistakably inside the house. Not water from a faucet. Not a pipe. It sounded like it was coming from the hallway. I stood up. My feet touched the floor and I felt it immediately. Wet. The rug was soaked. The hallway rug, just outside the living room. It had absorbed water like a sponge. At first, I thought maybe I'd spilled something earlier and didn't notice. But it wasn't a small patch. It was heavy. The entire center of the rug sagged with moisture when I stepped on it. I bent down, ran my fingers along the edge, and brought them up. Wet. Cold. And not clean water either. There was a smell. Faint. Earthy. Almost like mildew or rotting leaves. I looked up. The ceiling above the rug had a dark stain forming, barely visible against the paint, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And in the center of that stain, a drop fell. Right onto the rug, one after another. Slow, like something above was breathing. There's no bathroom above that part of the house. No pipes. Just the attic. I stood there, frozen, watching the drip fall from the ceiling fan. It didn't make sense. I went to the hall closet, grabbed a small step stool, and reached up to touch the base of the fan. It was damp. The blades were wet. That shouldn't be possible. There was no way for water to come from there. Not unless something up there was leaking through the floorboards. I walked to the attic hatch. I hadn't been up there in months. It wasn't the kind of space anyone used, just storage. Boxes, old clothes, forgotten things. I pulled the string and the attic door creaked open. The ladder dropped down slowly. The air that came with it hit me like a punch. Thick, stale, wet. I climbed up slowly, one rung at a time, half hoping I'd find a broken vent or some reasonable explanation. But the second my head passed through the opening, I knew something was wrong. It smelled like mold. Not faint, strong, sharp. Like the air itself was rotting. And something else too. Something almost human. I reached the top, stepped onto the wooden boards, and stood still. The only light came from a tiny bulb dangling near the center beam. I didn't even want to pull the cord. Instead, I let my eyes adjust. There was movement. Not alive, just something fluttering. A piece of plastic, maybe. When I got closer, I saw it wasn't plastic. It was a coat. A long, dark raincoat, dripping wet. It was lying in the middle of the attic floor, crumpled like someone had taken it off just moments ago. Beside it were footprints. Muddy. Leading away from the coat, then doubling back toward the far wall. I wanted to believe it was old, that maybe someone had gone up there weeks ago and left it. But the coat was still damp. The water underneath hadn't even started drying, and the mud, it wasn't dry either. It smelled like it had come from outside just recently. I moved a little farther in. There were wrappers on the floor, crushed, torn, a protein bar, empty. Beside it, tissues, wet, crumpled into small balls, like someone had been living up here. sleeping, eating, hiding. I backed away. Every instinct in me told me to run. Get out. Call someone. Do something. But I kept staring at the coat. I don't know why. Maybe I was hoping it would vanish, that I'd blink and wake up and this would all be a weird dream. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I jumped, nearly dropped it trying to pull it out with shaking hands. It was a message from Sarah. She hadn't replied to my earlier one until now. It said, "You told me you weren't alone tonight?" I stared at the screen for a full minute, reread the message twice, my mind racing, trying to understand. I never said that, not once. In fact, I specifically told her I was alone. I scrolled up through the thread. There it was, my message. Yeah, house is creepy, but I locked everything. Then hers. Ugh, this storm's giving me anxiety, lol. You alone? I hadn't responded after that. At least, not that I remembered. But just before her latest reply was something else. A message from me. Sent 2 minutes earlier. It said, "Not really." I didn't send that. My hands were cold now. I could feel my fingers going numb as I stared at the message I didn't remember typing. Someone had either hacked my phone, or someone else had my phone when I didn't. But it never left my pocket. That was the moment it clicked. The coat, the food, the dripping sound, the door I forgot to lock. And now, a message I didn't send claiming I wasn't alone. I wasn't. And I wasn't sure if I still was, or if whatever had been here was gone. All I knew was that I needed to get out of the attic. Fast. But just as I turned to climb down the ladder, I heard it. Below me. On the floorboards, directly beneath where I stood. One slow, careful footstep. Then another. And the soft creak of the hallway floor I hadn't walked on. Someone was in the house. I came down the attic ladder faster than I should have. Almost missed a step. My heartbeat was loud, too loud. It was in my ears, in my throat. I couldn't tell if it was adrenaline or something worse. I didn't look back up. I didn't want to know what might still be up there, or who. When my feet hit the hallway floor again, I stood there for a moment, trying to breathe. The air was different. Not colder, just more alert, like the whole house was watching me now. I told myself I needed to stay calm. I needed to clean up the mess, the water, the rug, the weird trail through the attic. Make the space feel normal again. Maybe someone had broken in earlier. Maybe they were gone now. Maybe I just never noticed before. Maybe. I went back into the hallway, grabbed an old towel from the linen closet, and dropped it over the wet rug. It squished loudly when it hit the floor, an ugly sound that made my stomach turn. I wiped my hands on my shirt without thinking. My palms were clammy, and I couldn't stop them from shaking. I needed to check the doors again. All of them. I had to know, for sure, what was locked and what wasn't. Back door first. Locked. Side door. Still shut. Still latched. Then the front. I approached it slowly, expecting it to be open again. Unlocked. Maybe even cracked. But it wasn't. It was locked. Deadbolt turned, handle firm. But I didn't remember doing that. I hadn't come back to lock it. I hadn't touched it since earlier that evening, when I realized it was still unlocked. And yet, it was now securely closed. I stared at it, touched the lock, pressed gently on the handle to make sure. Still locked. I didn't know what to feel. Relief? Confusion? I started to turn around, and that's when I saw them. Footprints. Muddy. Clear. Leading from the front door. They weren't mine. They were longer, spaced differently, heavier. They moved across the entryway, past the hallway rug, and disappeared into my bedroom. I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, trying to process it. Because I hadn't been in my bedroom since before the storm started. And now there were footprints leading straight in. I forced my legs to move quietly, like I was afraid of waking something. I reached the doorway and looked inside. The lights were off, Everything looked the same, at first. But then I noticed the nightstand. It was empty. My phone was gone. I always left it there at night, charging, easy to grab. But now the cord dangled loosely off the side of the table, no phone attached. My throat tightened. I didn't hear it ring, didn't hear it buzz. It was just gone. I stepped back, retraced my path through the hallway, into the kitchen, unsure of what I was even looking for. And there it was, sitting on the kitchen table, face up, unlocked, screen still glowing. Someone had been using it. I picked it up slowly. My hands were colder now. My thumb hovered over the screen. The camera app was open, but not the camera itself. The photo gallery. The last photo was of me, sleeping. My heart dropped. I opened the image fully. There I was, curled up in bed, wearing the same clothes I had on earlier that week, taken from the foot of the bed, as if someone had been standing right there. I swiped left. Another photo. Same angle, but the timestamp was earlier. Then another, and another. I swiped through dozens of them. Each one was darker than the last, taken on different nights. Some from the doorway, some closer. Every photo was of me, asleep. Blankets pulled over my shoulders, face half turned into the pillow, and they were organized, hourly. Each one labeled by the phone. 2:12 a.m., 3:12 a.m., 4:12 a.m. Whoever had taken them had been watching me sleep, night after night, documenting it. I couldn't breathe. I dropped the phone onto the table and stepped away from it like it might bite me. I didn't know what was worse, the fact that someone had been in my room at night, or the idea that they might still be inside the house right now, because I still hadn't checked the closet. And those footprints, they never went back to the door. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone against the wall and run outside and never come back. But I didn't move. I stared at the screen, at the photo, my own face in the dark, and I could barely feel my fingers anymore. Like my body wasn't mine. Like I was watching this happen to someone else. I finally grabbed the phone and opened the dialer. 911. I pressed the call button. It didn't ring. Not even once. The screen froze for a second, then said, "Call failed." I had signal a minute ago. I checked again. 1 bar, then none, then just SOS only. My entire body locked up. The silence in the house was unbearable now. It didn't feel like silence anymore. It felt like someone holding their breath. I backed away from the kitchen. I didn't cry. Not yet. I was too far past that. I opened the drawer by the sink, grabbed the first thing I saw, a kitchen knife, and ran to the only room in the house with no windows, the bathroom. I locked the door behind me and sat on the floor, my back pressed tight against the tub. Everything was shaking. I opened my phone and texted Sarah. I didn't even think, I just typed, "Call the police. Someone's been in my house." I stared at the screen. The message sent, delivered. She saw it almost immediately. 3 dots appeared, typing, then disappeared. Came back, gone again. I waited, staring, praying she was already calling. I didn't know what else to do. I kept the knife in one hand, the phone in the other. That's when I heard it. Not footsteps. Not at first. Just movement. Subtle. Slow. Like wet fabric dragging across wood. It was coming from the hallway. I held my breath. I thought maybe it was the pipes, the wind, anything but what it sounded like. Then I heard it again. 1 step, then another. Light. Careful. Deliberate. Someone walking, but not in shoes. Wet socks. Squelching softly with every step. They were close, just outside the bathroom door. I covered my mouth with my hand and curled my legs into my chest. No sound. Don't breathe. Don't move. Then I heard it. A voice. Not loud. Not clear. Just a whisper. Coming from above, from the bathroom vent. Low. Raspy. too close. It said, "You forgot to lock the door." My entire body seized. I didn't even scream. I couldn't. The voice was real. It wasn't in my head. It had weight. It echoed softly through the vent, like someone was leaning right into it from the attic, just above me. And that meant they hadn't left. They'd never left. They were still here, watching me, talking to me, following every step I took. My phone buzzed. I looked down, heart racing so hard I thought I might pass out. A message from Sarah. "Are you sure they're not still inside?" I didn't answer, because now I was sure. I didn't know how long I sat there. Maybe minutes, maybe longer. But eventually, I heard a car engine, then another. Tires on wet pavement, doors slamming shut. Voices, flashlights, the police. Sarah must have called. I pushed myself up, knees weak, knife still in hand, and turned to the bathroom window. It was small, high, but it was my only way out. I climbed onto the counter, twisted the lock, and forced it open. Rain hit my face immediately. Cold, sharp, clean. I squeezed through, fell into the muddy flower bed behind the house, ran barefoot across the yard, straight to the flashing red and blue. They saw me, wrapped me in a blanket, tried to ask questions, but I couldn't say anything yet. I just pointed at the house. They went in. 2 officers through the front, 1 through the back. I watched from the street, gripping the blanket with both hands, trembling. Time passed. Too much time. Eventually, one of the officers came back out and shook his head. No sign of forced entry. No broken windows. No unlocked doors. Everything appeared normal. Except it wasn't. Because then they checked the attic. They didn't even say anything at first, just exchanged a look. And I knew. They found it. A sleeping bag, tucked behind old boxes, pushed into the corner, still damp. And next to it, a notebook. Old, spiral-bound, faded cover. Inside were pages, detailed, methodical, written in small, neat handwriting. My routine. What time I wake up. What I eat for breakfast. When I shower. How long I stay on the phone. When I fall asleep. Even what I wear to bed. Page after page after page. But the last one was short. Just 1 sentence, written in red ink. "She always forgets to lock the door when it rains." That was all. I didn't go back in that house, not even to pack. Sarah helped me find a new apartment across town. Top floor, double locks, security cameras. It's been 3 months. I don't sleep much. I check the doors 3-4 times every night. I don't watch movies anymore when I'm alone. And I never, ever leave the attic door unlatched. But even now, even here, every time it rains, when the thunder rolls in and the wind shakes the glass, I still hear it. Wet footsteps, software slow, right outside my bedroom door.